And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the Intercontinental Hotel here doing a post-mortem on POTUS. Who better to do it with than my man, the Uungwana man, the Shenzi man, who calls it like he sees it, been doing it for the last decade or so, if anyone would listen. But Obama comes to town, says the same thing, and we tell ourselves, that's what Ken Njiru has been saying. Go figure. Tweets coming in, Stano.
Thick and fast.
Thick and fast. That's what he says. Let me read one here, or a couple.
Yep.
Tatun says President Uhuru Kenyatta is one of the most articulate presidents in Africa. No doubt about that.
Yep.
Gerald Lepario says Kenyans focused on if Obama would shake hands with Ruto. That was a big topic last few days.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, he did. He did. You know, you remember before POTUS landed here, the president was asked the question whether Ruto, would be part of the team, engaging with Obama, and he said the last he knew, Ruto was part of the government, and Ruto, just like everybody else, I guess, did shake hands with the president.
Yeah.
I personally am not reading too much into that. I mean, he's the vice president, and Obama was dealing with the president, and if he's the vice president, then you got to shake hands with the vice president.
That's right.
I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And so Kenyans were wondering whether he'll shake hands. He did shake hands with him, and
that ended that.
Yeah, and incidentally, by the way, for me, the only thing I would then read into this is that what Kenya is and is becoming supersedes, an issue like that of Ruto. And what we are calling American interest or partnering with Kenya is larger than a small thing like that. Yeah. And I think that's what we're basically talking about. I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, the president went to Ethiopia. Ethiopia is not a democracy.
No,
it's not a democracy. It has
and
so
he
many
went
people,
there.
Yeah. It has so many people in detention.
Yeah.
In fact, some
bloggers
the other have been in the cells, I think, since last year.
That's right.
Simply because of blogging. 14 of them, I think 10 of them were released just before he went. Yeah. So sometimes, again, real politics. You even a person like Obama sometimes has to play it. Maybe if it was Uhuru he was dealing with, it would have been different.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll get to Ethiopia in a second because I always keep saying 95 million people, economy growing the way that one is.
Yeah.
You can't ignore Ethiopia.
No, again, yes.
Let's come back.
Yeah.
Opposition.
Yes.
Opposition. Did they get what they wanted, Ken? Was it a little?
I think the opposition got the tail end of the stick. And I think it slipped from them, in the sense that the amount of time they were given in 3 days simply, I suppose, sends the message that this was not about politics.
Yeah.
But even more fundamentally, my thinking tells me that POTUS has info, or rather, if he wants info, Jeff's file, he gets Jeff's file
right away.
I mean, that's what their system does. And so even as he's marching into Kenya, he knows everybody there and what you've done or not done, when you did it, when you didn't do it. And so when POTUS says that you guys, when you were in government, you said you didn't want us, now you want me to push him, that's the truth. I mean, we are seeing it now on WhatsApp, clips of those guys actually saying, leave us alone. So POTUS is basically saying, you're not telling them off, you're not telling them go to hell, but you're simply saying, guys, wake up, smell the coffee, things have changed. And our reflexes should be different. That's what you're saying. And so when you come and say, push the government, and you're using you're using that hypocritical approach, to him, that's something he cannot digest.
Yeah.
So he spits it out. And what I suppose you'd want to see is a more a far thinking, should I say, opposition. For example, this was an entrepreneurship conference, essentially. What did they have to say about entrepreneurship? I'm sure on that list, in fact, when I read what they told him, there was no entrepreneurship. Why? Because in this country, we don't understand what the real issues are. By the way, I'm not even sure, many of us as Kenyans don't even understand what entrepreneurship means.
It's a tough word to pronounce.
When you talk about America, when you talk about Air Force One coming in, when you talk about the American might, it is based on entrepreneurship. It is based on companies that are so large that what you guys produce in a year, some of those companies make 3 times that. And I'm talking as basic companies like Apple Computers, the one that makes phones.
Yeah.
And that is driven on entrepreneurship. People bringing new things into the market. Young people creating. In fact, America is tagged the most entrepreneurial nation in the world. And the country we call Singapore is actually the second per capita most entrepreneurial country in the world, meaning that Singaporeans are producing newer and newer things and basically taking a lot of things into the market at a higher rate, relative to their population and, against other countries. So that when we're talking about entrepreneurship, it's something that we must embrace. We must embrace it, because without entrepreneurship, we cannot be able to resolve the problems we have in this country. Again, if I may, again, when we talk about these companies, some of them employ as many as 1.4 million people. And I like giving that example of Walmart, with the Kenyan government employing about 500,000 people. So you can already see what entrepreneurship means. But they won't talk about that. They are saying push the government. They are saying they are going to talk about, trying. Sometimes they sound like it's some media is talking about them as crybabies, and that's how they come out. So what we're simply saying is that, for me, I would like to see a stronger opposition that is more focused, and an opposition that understands that it's not about fixing the president every time, or trying to bring down the government, which is another thing he told them. It's not about bringing this guy down. It is about trying to come with those policies which, if put into place, will lift the country up. And for me, what is significant about that is that if you've been following what has been happening in the US, there are some right-wing fellows, especially in the Republican Party, who would never see anything good in Obama
at all.
Yeah, and at some point in time, in fact, one of them in the Congress shouted him down and said, "Liar." And I don't know whether you remember what happened. He was a Republican, but the Republicans and the Democrats told him, "You must apologize. You must respect the presidency." And so what Obama is saying, he's not talking about Uhuru per se, but he's talking about people starting to understand that there's something called institutions. In fact, he talked about building institutions. And as we go even to Addis, that is what he told leaders, that institutions are larger than the individual. And so when you go around this country insulting Uhuru, what you're insulting is the presidency. And even if Raila was sitting there, you must respect it. And so what we are saying is that we need to refocus. We need to dig deeper. Once I once had an occasion of going. In fact, I've gone to a number of political party headquarters across the globe. My friend, when you go there, if I may just give an example of the German case, SPD and CDU, you find parties have, for instance, 5 training institutions across the country, big places that can hold 300-400 people, right? And they are constantly. In fact, once we went for some training in one of their castles in the forest, so that you can think well about policies. Then you can take the government. That was for the Christian Democratic Union. And when we were leaving, we saw about 4 buses of young people. They were about 11, 12, 13. And I asked the German, "What are kids coming to do here?" And the German told me, "These kids belong to the party stalwarts. They are coming to be taught what the Christian Democratic Union stands for." And then I asked, "Then how do they engage?" He told me during summer they give out leaflets of the Christian Democratic Union.
At 13 years old? At
13 years old. So by the time the man or the woman or the lady is becoming 16, 17, 18 and going into politics, they are very clear. And that's how these guys talk about first generation, second generation Democrats. But what we have in this country, I form this party, before the next election I form another one, before the next election I form another one.
It's in my briefcase.
It's in your briefcase. And they don't even have flesh inside. The party is you and you are the party. You're the one who decides when elections are being done. When you're losing, you scrabble the election. And then you start talking about IEBC, and you yourself, you're a mess inside. And those are the things Obama is saying. You can't continue doing that. And for me, what I would say to the opposition is, this is a time to reflect. And I think they should be humble about it. Because we heard from Obama saying, one opposition leader told me, they cannot discard that. I think they should eat humble by and ask, what can we do to kick up, to be a better opposition for the sake of the Kenyan, the Kenyan people.
Absolutely. Ken, you alluded to the GES a moment ago, Global Entrepreneurial Summit. First time it's been held in sub-Sahara Africa. Big deal.
Big deal.
Huge.
By the way, I mean, that was a huge affirmation and a huge...
And a coup.
And a coup for Kenya. right? Because every time, you know, I would be watching Obama and I flip to CNN, I flip to
the Shark
Jazeera and BBC.
Yeah, it was all Kenya.
They are carrying Kenya.
Yeah.
They are carrying Kenya. What does that say? It is telling the world Kenya is open for business. It is telling the world Kenya is safe. And I remember, by the way, Obama was asked about travel advisory. And he says, look, as the American president, I cannot influence that. But he says, and he said, by the way, that some of them are sensational. But he says, but that's why I'm here, to dispel some of these things. So you can already see the interlocking benefits that we basically get, right? So if someone now stands and says Kenya is a hotbed of terrorism, you're wondering, is a hotbed of terrorism and the president is there, right? I mean, they saw the place was not looking like it has been blown up like where ISIS is,
correct,
so to speak. So for me, I think the global entrepreneurship summit was timely for this country. I am one for the publicity to, like I said, to telling the world, Kenya is open for business. But even more fundamentally, I think what it should do for us as a country is basically help us now focus on what entrepreneurship is.
Absolutely.
Give it all the support that it needs. Because if we do that, then all the problems that we have in this country are resolved.
Absolutely.
We must start thinking globally. Yeah. And by the way, I saw a creation by, again, that was on TV, by this young man who had made a robot of a wheelchair that was actually rising. You know, the wheelchair rises and the person who's sitting on it can actually stand, with the help of the wheelchair,
right.
that prototype.
Yeah.
And I said, my God.
Made in Kenya.
Made in Kenya. Now, what we need to do is to get behind him and put government systems into place such that a prototype can be developed. And we can start selling these things globally.
What about the Kisii woman who sold her company for like 100 meter?
There you are.
100 million.
There you are. There you are.
Tiny little company.
There you are.
Someone picked it up.
What does that tell us? We have the potential. This is the moment. The opportunity, the door has been opened. Yeah. Now let's start talking about that. Not the nonsense. By the way, one thing I was happy about. During those 3 days, I didn't see politicians talking nonsense and doing the things that they do. Or at least those who do.
Correct.
Not all of them do.
Correct.
Right? There was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I opened the TV, I saw Paranya fighting.
So we were back.
So we were back again.
The hangover was...
I think even them, they were watching, with POTUS. Then when he went, he said, now back to business.
As usual.
As usual.
By the way, speaking of hotbed,
yes.
Did you hear the president's speech at the Gigiri, at the GS? He says, yes, Kenya is a hotbed of cultural diversity. Oh.
That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
10-0.
But and by the way, for you to be able to do that, you must be relaxed. I think I think he was enjoying the moment. Yeah. I think he was enjoying the moment.
He got it.
Yeah,
he got it.
Okay,
we're going to take another break. Come back. Let's talk about Addis. You alluded to Addis a moment ago.
Yeah.
Talking about third terms.
Yeah.
Talking about Burundi.
Yeah.
I mean, he pointedly told Africa, listen, man, shape up.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah, it's time.
And the youth were clapping and ululating and screaming.
The civil society, yeah. And I'm sure they're sitting there wondering.
Oh, man.
Wondering if this was my country.
Ethiopia. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought?
Wow. What a moment. Ken Njiru, folks, speaking his mind, calling it like he sees it. It's all about Uungwana and Ushenzi. There's a lot of Ushenzi in this, huh?
A lot of it.
Babu Owino?
Oh, total Ushenzi. In fact, if you asked me...
Come on.
A person like Babu has done a great disservice even to Nairobi University. Maybe that's why Obama didn't even go there. I mean, a man who's doing his second degree saying you're going to pee on plants because at Obama...
Because he's not coming to visit you guys.
He's not coming to visit you.
How long has he been at university?
20 years about. And he's even starting a political party. At least he was on television the other day.
What is he standing?
Ushenzi.
Oh!
Ushenzi.
At Uungwana Kenya, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. And a disclaimer at that.
No. We can...
I've been to court a few times.
No. It is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You will pee on plants.
Yeah.
I mean, even the president told him, you puss. So if he's going to take me to court, he can...
Let's all go.
Yes, let's all go.
Let's take a break. We'll be back, Stano.
In a moment.
Was that me who said it, or was that you?
I did it.
Say again. We'll be back.
In a moment.
Back in a moment.